This week's Pashas Tchiya. The Parsha starts off, the first portion of the Parsha starts off with the Ptira of Sarah, Amenu, and Avram Avinu getting very busy looking for a keva for her. So the first pasuk is very much Gedarshan by everybody, the famous Rashi, which we'll get to in a minute. But I just had a quick question I was wondering about. L'maisa Shtein Chazal that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created Adam Rishon from all across the world. He collected afar, he collected dirt from all four corners of the world. One of the reasons being is that no matter where a person is, when he dies, he'll be able to be buried there. Right? And the Maharsha says, the Maharsha in Makis says that that's why people like to travel, because they're going to connect to their original places. So, what's this whole Asik and what's this whole Taram that Avram Avinu is trying to find a cover? I don't know. She died at home, so bury her right there. I mean, L'maisa like this, halachically speaking, if you have a mace mitzvah, right? It's a famous story the Gemara brings. It could be to Medrash. I don't know if it's a Gemara. The Rebbe Kiva, before he knew how to learn properly, so he saw a dead body on the floor, on the road. So he picked it up and he schlepped it to the nearest Beis HaKvaros and he buried it in the Beis HaKvaros, because that's what he thought that's what you're supposed to do. But the halacha is that meis mitzvah is kind of mekaimei. A meis mitzvah is kind of the spot exactly where he dies. So you bury him there. But a person who's not a meis mitzvah, so he could be buried wherever. But in a certain oifen, what was the whole asik that he had to find dafka this place? So the answer we know already, but I just want to, the question, just I was think of it along the lines. I'm not even sure it's an accurate question. The answer obviously is that we know that Avram Avinu knew about the Mars HaMachpelah way beforehand. And if you look, Chazal talk about Ephraim as being like the Yetzer Hara, and Chazal talk about Ephraim being a foolish person. It wasn't Be'etzem a foolish person, but in a sense, he didn't have a ruchnis to cook on things. See, he wasn't able to sniff out the kedusha that lies in the Mars HaMachpelah. The fact that Adam Rishon was buried there, that gave. We have to realize that Adam Rishon was Yitzir Kapav Shel Kadosh Baruch Hu. He was created with a Kadosh Baruch Hu's hands, Kaviyachol, right? His body was still there, so that creation, even if it was just a guf that's in the ground, but that creation is still Yitzir Kapav Shel Kadosh Baruch Hu, even if the neshama is not there. Which Bechal was interesting, because if I remember it by the Levi Kletsky story, the Reshiva was mama shaken up, and he spoke in camp, and he was very, very fahakt, he was very upset, but he told everybody that we should all learn Hilchas Kved HaMeis, Hilchas Kavod Sefer Torah and Hilchas Kved HaMeis, which I thought was I was a Mesifta, I thought it was a very interesting thing. That the reason for Kved HaMeis Pashut, I mean, this was a Meshuna de B'zayin HaMeis, it was B'zayin HaChayim, was B'zayin HaMeisim, was B'zayin of everything. It was from the lowest, but it's from the lowest things that a person could do. But also Hilchas Sefer Torah. The halacha is that if a person sees a Sefer Torah shenisraf, he's wachiv terais kriya, right? When a person is nifter, a person also, when you see another yid that's nifter, you also have terais kriya. The same thing as Sefer Torah, because a yid is like a Sefer Torah. It's kedusha. There's a certain kedushas haguf that a yid has. Purim, that's taka what we're celebrating, is that nekuda kedushas haguf. And Avram Avinu was margish kedusha when he went there, and Shtein Chazal noch that he would daven there. It's very interesting, because if you look at the psukim, the Torah goes into great detail about his whole conversation with Ephraim and the Bnei Ches and back and forth and back and a whole sugya. If you would start telling me the whole asik that you had when you went to buy some property, I don't know. That's what happens when you buy property; it becomes an asik. You need this amount of money, you need that amount of money, you need this paper to be signed, you need the other paper to be signed, you need a co-signer, you need this guy to back you up. It's a process, the ASIC. But Avram Avinu also wanted to buy the property around the Mars HaMachpelah. What was that about? Because that's a place where he used to daven. And why did he daven there? Because he was margish that there was a kedusha there, because the Mars HaMachpelah was near there. It was like state. And not only that, but state also, a very interesting thing, that in last week's Parsha, so Avram Avinu shechted 3 cows for the Malachim that came to visit him. And one of the cows ran away. As it stayed in the register, one of the cows ran away, and he chased after it, and the cow ran into the Mars HaMachpelah. He chased it all the way to the Mars HaMachpelah. and because he chased the Mars HaMachpelah, he saw certain ha'aris, he saw certain kedusha that was there, so he said, "This is the place." So the question is, so why didn't he buy it then? So that's a big question. Why he didn't buy it then? The pashtus is, he didn't buy it then because he didn't see that there was a need for it. Okay. Now, what's very interesting is that we know that the avoid of the Ovis and the Imohis were very stark to be Misakin, V'chet Odom, and Chava. Now, Chava, we don't talk about her that much in the terms of the Chet of Odom, but she's played a, integral role in that story. And when Sarah was nifter, she lived her life with Azash Lemos. She was Misakin in a very, very strong way. The Chet of what Chava did. Because in every aspect in the Bria, there's Zachar and a Keva. There's a nice and a Makabel. Right? So, an Isha is a Makabel. So, there's a marshal, there's a halacha like this. That, there's a halacha like this, that while something is, if you have something that's very, very hot, so sometimes it could be so hot that even if something that drips on it, that would make it be a problem, because it's so hot, it'll spit it right out. So a zachar, in terms of certain, looking at a nisan as opposed to a makabel holds things. That's the point of a makabel, a clay kibble. You need to put something somewhere. You put it in a kli. You put it in a vessel to hold it. Right? When it comes to the kedusha versus tuma, in a certain eifin, the koyach of the nekeva being makabel is much stronger because the mitzias of a nekeva is that she has the koyach of being makabel something, so it's much, much stronger. So in the tzad hatuma as well, when they're makabel something, it's much harder to be mevatel that koyach hatuma, to be mevatel that koyach hara, because the kabbalah it gets locked in a lot harder than when by a noisin. So the avodah of cracking, so to speak, of breaking open the tumah, of destroying that kli, ends up becoming much more difficult by a nekeva than by a zachar. So Sarah's role in being mesakin the chet of what Chava did in certain eifin, we say that Sarah was greater than Avram and Nevuah, right? Whatever that's supposed to mean. I don't know if I know what that means. I don't know what that means. But the point is that she had a Gevissa Madrega, which was much higher, because she had to be Masak in the Keich of Chava, the Keich of the Nekeva. Which is just an interesting ha'ar, which I was thinking about. Okay, so the Pasuk says like this. Vayiyu Chaye Sarah, it was the life of Sarah. She lived Meya Shana, the Esrim Shana, the Sheva Shana, Shnei Chaye Sarah. So obviously the whole Welt is busy with what's Meya Shana, Esrim Shana, Sheva Shana. Why do you break it up like that? Right? The pashtus is, the truth is Shal Mikra, she lived 127 years. Right? So the pasuk stam the two basic questions. Vayu Chai Sarah Meya Shana, the Esrim Shana, Sheva Shana, Shnei Chai Sarah. Just say Sarah lived 127 years. What's the 100? What's the 20? What's the 7? So Rashi is already aimed down this question. Famous Rashi. L'kach nichtav Shana b'chol klal u'klal. That's why it says Shana by each type of number, right? Single digits, tens. Tens and ones, and also by hundreds as well. To teach you, each age and each stage of her life was a new shlav of avodah, was something else. Bas meya ke bas esrim lechet. When she was 100, it was like she was 20 for chet. Ma bas esrim lechata, just like when she was 20, she didn't sin. Right? Ain't a bas einchim, because she's not a bas einchim, because in Bezin Shamal they only punish once you're 20 years old, right? Which is interesting, because the Ma'aser Rashi says in Parshas Noach that especially at this point in time, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't give out energy until the person was 100 years old. I never thought about that, but I heard this kasha this week. I thought it was a good ha'ara. So av bas meya b'lechet. So when she was 100, she didn't have a chet either. Ubas esrim kibas sheva liyofi, and when she was 20, she was as beautiful as a 7-year-old girl. The question is that when you want to describe beauty, you generally wouldn't be describing a 7-year-old girl. So some changed the girsa in Rashi, efshef shenish, but but the point is that at each age and at each stage, she was as pure as a young girl. And she didn't get tainted by the surroundings, and she kept her kedusha, she kept her Yiddishkeit as firm as always. There's a vart from, I heard from a Chalmi, it's a Chalmi Vartzer, Baruch Biderman says it over. He says, people, what happens when a person has a tzara? So they daven, right? So what do they daven? Yancha Hashem b'yayim tzara. Hashem should listen to me. Hashem should answer me in my day of tzara, right? But so Hashem helps them out. And let's say the guy's looking for a job, and he's davening for weeks or months that he should find a job, and Hashem finds him a job, and then what? Right? It's like you're driving around, and God, I need to find a parking spot. Oh, forget it. I just found it. Right? Many times when a person has the Yeshua from the tzara, they forget to be makar taiva HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So bas kuf kebas chaf. When that guy's pouring his heart out by his tehillim when he's looking for a job, when that guy's pouring his heart out because his child is sick or Rahman al-San or whatever other tzara the person has, right? So kapitel chaf in tehillim is Yancha Hashem b'yayim tzara, right? Yeah. And kapitel kuf is Mizmor l'Sayda. So bas kuf kebas chaf. You should say Mizmor l'Sayda, give Haydat HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with the same gefühl, with the same geschmack, with the same heart that you put into the Lam Natseach of Yancha Hashem b'yayim tzara. As they sagt avort. Okay. Fine. The Baal Turim says that at the end of Parshas Vayera, it ends off the Suel Yolad as Rivka. So there's a Gemara, it's Gemara Kedushin, that he references over here. Ad shlai shaka shimsha shal Sara zarcha shimsha shal Rivka v'zehu Sara ma'az shana Rosh Tevis shemesh v'zehu v'zarach hashemesh u'ba hashemesh. So v'zarach hashemesh u'ba hashemesh is a pasuk that means that the sun sets and the sun rises. Meaning that there's always a continuation. It doesn't stop. Just because one thing goes away, it doesn't mean that you're not going to have any continuation anymore. The Gemara says that actually, just about the time that big Amira was nifter, another one was born, who was able to fill in, so to speak, for that one that passed away, and this is a yisod that's throughout. So when Sarah was born, when Sarah passed away, that's around the time that Rivka came into being. Realize that by the Akedah, Yitzchak was 37, right? So Sarah was 90 when Yitzchak was born. So it's 37 years later, so she's 127, right? Vayiyu, is Gematria 37, because those were the spitz years of Sarah's life. Why? Because the Gemara says a person that doesn't have children is chashav kemes. So her ikr time that she was alive was that those 37 years when she had children, when she had a child, I should say, because that's when she was alive. Let's keep track of the time a little bit. Anyway, so that's the idea. So Rivka was Yitzchak did the Akedah when he was 37, and Sarah passed away right after just about immediately after the Akedah, and a short while later, Avram sends Eliezer, which is the rest of the parsha really. After the parsha of the Petira of Sarah and the being kind of the Maris HaMachpelah, it goes straight into Avram Zaken Baba Yamim, and he asks Eliezer to go find a wife for Yitzchak, and that's basically the rest of the parsha till Rivka comes back to Yitzchak to meet with Yitzchak, and she gets married to Yitzchak, and they live together, and then the parsha talks about Avram marrying Keturah, and then those children of Bnei Keturah, which is a whole fascinating sugya in of itself. Was Keturah Hagar or not? What's the yachas with these children? What's it all about? It's very interesting because the Gemara says, Rashi brings it, Gemara Sanhedrin says that Avram Avinu gave them matanos. So what were the matanos? So the Pashtus is they gave them presents, like a Zaidi gives the kid presents, it's a normal thing. But Rashi brings from the Gemara says that Avram Avinu gave them a shem tumah to use to be able to access all kinds of evil kinds of ruchniistic things in the world. The question is, what's that got to do with anything? There's a lot to talk on that also. Hopefully we'll get to that at a different time. But getting back to what we're talking about is that Rivka is born by the Akedah. So Achalei Shaka Shimsha Shel Sarah was Zarcha Shimsha Shel Rivka. So as soon as the son of Sarah set, so that's when the son of Rivka came into being. The whole sugya bichlal, this definitely needs to be addressed. The whole sugya bichlal, the fact that Rivka is 3 years old and she's marrying Yitzchak, 3 years old is very young. even in those days standards, the pashtus was very, very young. And to be able to have children at such a young age, it's just very, it's fair to be masik. It's difficult to understand. So there's obviously Torah on this. It obviously needs to be understood. There's a joke that they say that Eliezer comes to the house, and she meets Rivka by the well, and she's schlepping the water, and he heard the whole story, and she goes home and she says, she tells Basula, Dad, this guy came, he wanted to read me a shidduch. Basula's like, what do you mean? You're only 3 years old. She says, Dad, what do you mean? I'm in the parsha. Yeah, that's exactly the joke. Okay. The Baal Turim goes weiter, and the Baal Turim says, "V'loy Omar Yemei." It doesn't say Yemei Chayei Sarah. It says, "Vayiyu Chayei Sarah Meir Shana V'Esrim Shana V'Sheva Shana Shnei Chayei Sarah." L'fisha Chazru Limei Nairus. Doesn't say the days of, but she went back to being young. Right? That's what I said in last week's parsha. That she says she didn't even have the physical organs in her body to be able to have children, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu created it then, and then she was able to have children. Then eventually she got older again. I mean, she only needed that to have Yitzchak. Once Yitzchak was born, she didn't need it anymore. She didn't have any more children after that, right? So when she got older again, so she wasn't young anymore. She got old again. So she was old. She got young for a little bit. That's 9 months or 7 months, depending on how you learn when Yitzchak, what kufa Yitzchak was born in. And then after that, Sarah got old regularly again. Lefikach Omar Shnei. Davar Acher, Minyan Vayiyu Hayu Iker Chayeha Mishnel Yitzchak, the Bastishim Haisik Shneilat V'chol Yameh Hayu Kuv Chav Zayin, and all her years were 127. Okay, this is some Torahs from a few years ago. I don't remember what I wrote, so we're not going to go there. Okay. Thomas Sarah B'Kiryas Arba, he Chevron Be'eretz Canaan, and Sarah dies in Kiryas Arba, which is Chevron in Eretz Canaan. So what do you mean Kiryas Arba is Chevron? We find a lot throughout the Parashas HaTorah, different names for the same thing, or different names for the same place. So when the Torah gives something a name, it means more than just, like something to call it. We know, it's from Rishonim already, says the Kadmonim said it's already, goes all the way back, it's probably even before in Chazal in a place, that the name of something defines the Metzias, right? Adam Rishon called names to all the behemoths and all the chayas and all the creation, and the Malachim weren't able to do that. Because Malachim can't define things, because they are defined by the shlichus that they have to go on, like we saw in last week's parasha by the Malachim, that one Malach can only be Mekayim one shlichus. So a Malach is very limited. So a Malach doesn't have an understanding, so to speak, quote unquote, that Adam had the insight that Adam had, because he's limited in his shlichus. He can't do more than his shlichus.
Can't multitask.
What?
A Malach can't multitask.
Exactly, as I understand Chazal. Reb Tzadok is marach on this to explain what it means exactly, but it's along the lines. Reb Tzadok is bothered by a question that why Taka couldn't the Malachim be the ones to name the thing? I mean, they're very the beings. Like, why would it be that they couldn't have an Adam? The Adam, he's the guy that's able to give that knows all the answers. It's strange. The Malachim, in a sense, should be higher, right? Maybe not. That's the question. So what's Kiryas Arba? He Chevron. So in the Pshuton Shel Hadvarim, many times the way that the Torah was written was that even at earlier Tkufas, it references the names from a later point. The Gemara goes through. The Gemara Ksubas on the Fiyadim Beis goes through different things like this, right? But Rashi says something interesting. Rashi says, why was it called Kiryas Arba? Al Shem Arba Anokim. There were 4 giants that lived there. Shahayusham, Achimon, Shesha, and Talmai, Aviyam, and their father. That's one pshat. The second pshat is Davar Achar Al Shem Arba Zugesh and Nikvarusham. There were 4 pairs. There were 4 couples that were buried there. Ishva Ishta, a husband and wife. Adam and Chava, Avram and Sarah, Yitzchak and Rivka, Yaakov and Leah. Now Rachel, we know, wasn't buried there. She was buried in Beis Lechem, which sort of goes back to our original question, which we started off with. She's buried in Beis Lechem. Why is she buried in Beis Lechem? Because that's where she passed away, right? So another question that the Mefarshim are busy with is that the only one of the imahs and from the avos is that the Torah stells avek very stark where she was when she died. Like on the death certificate, the Torah is telling us what happened. This is what it says on the death certificate. I don't know, where did Leah die? When did Leah die? I don't even know anything about her. I don't know, where did Yitzchak die? I don't know. It's somewhere in Eretz Yisrael because he couldn't leave. Yaakov, we know he died in Mitzrayim. Like the Torah doesn't make asik out of it. The Torah makes a big asik about where she was. Kiryas Arba, he Chevron be'eretz Canaan. It's like three. It's almost like in three different. What's the three things over here? Right. So that's a question. What's interesting is that it's called Kiryas Arba. Right at this point when Sarah passed away. Note that the only two people that are buried in Ma'aras HaMachpelah currently at that point is Adam and Chava. So it's called Kiryas Arba. Al Shem that there eventually will be 4 pairs of husband and wife that are going to be buried there. Now, Shteit is a fascinating story that the Maral brings in Chazal, from Chazal, the Maral brings, shouldn't say from Chazal even, the Maral brings that Tchias HaMesim is going to start from the Ma'aras HaMachpelah. And Rabbi Hartman, the one who wrote the Ha'aris and the Zachan on the bottom of the Maral, he was always looking for Vu Shteit in Chazal. Where does it say in Chazal this thing? He said he knew that Rav Hutner used to say that everything in the Maral is in Chazal. So what's Vu Shteit in Chazal as a Chazal? So he was by Reb Chaim Kanievsky, Zechen Lavracha, and he asked Reb Chaim, where does it say this Chazal? So Reb Chaim heard his question and starts thinking. Reb Chaim's thinking, you don't know where he's going, you know? And he's like this, and he says, Nan Bavli. That was pretty good, right? Nan Yerushalmi, Nan Tesefta, Nan Medrash Rabbah or Tanchuma, Nan Sefer HaSifri, Nan Zayar, and he's like turning white, you know? Tikunei Zayar Shteit Azazach. Okay. Shteit Tikunei Zayar. That was the Gea this Nekuda. Now, what's the concept that Tchias HaMesim starts from Ma'aras HaMachpelah? Rav Sal Rav Hutner has a big mimer. It's not printed. All the Rebbeim said over, my father said it over, since I'm a little kid, I've been hearing it every year, Parshas Chaisar. Because the Lashon of Rashi is, Ukemat shaloi nishchata parcha nishmasa. It's like just about, when Sarah heard about the Akedah, her neshama left her. What do you mean? Say she died from the B'sura of the Akedah, but it's not what it says. What's Pshat? So without getting into the whole nusach of the Maimer, I'll just say quickly the nakud of how it worked out. We know Avram Avinu is the first Yid. Yitzchak is the one that's the first born as a Yid. And Yaakov is already the first default Yid. And Yosef is the insurance policy on that, as we mentioned. Now, we need to solidify everything that Yiddishkeit holds, right? Everything that Yiddishkeit is, and the whole Metzias of Yiddishkeit, we need to build on it, right? So when a guy dies, it's garbage disposal. That's Gavai. But by Yidden, we believe in Tchias HaMesim. And we're just putting him away. We're putting the person away, and we're going to see him, Mitzvah Shem, the carve, we're going to have Tchias HaMesim, and we're going to see everyone again, right? But in order for there to be a Misa by Yidden, it had to be insured with Tchias HaMesim. What's the insurance for Tchias HaMesim? Shteit in Pigad Belezer, that when Yitzchak was on the Akedah, was Parcha Nishmasai. He died by the Akedah. And he got Tchias HaMesim, and he got off the Mizbeach, and he said, Baruch Atah Hashem Echaya HaMesim. The first bracha in Shemay Esrei is Mogen Avraham. The second bracha, which is Keneged Yitzchak, is Mechaya HaMesim. Right? The bracha, it's called Gvuras, or Gvuras Geshamim. Because Yitzchak was the meat of Gvura. It all goes together. Grada state that he was in Gan Eden for a few years, till he came back, because he needed a refuah from the Akedah, whatever that's supposed to mean. Today they would probably say it's trauma, but it's probably epicarsis. But there's a fascinating, from the Balei HaTosfos, there's a sefer called Moshev Zekanim on Chumash, from the Balei HaTosfos. And at the end of this Maisa, when Rivka comes to meet with Yitzchak, the fascinating line over there, I checked it up today because I never stood inside it. I was mamish blown away, and it almost doesn't make sense. It's so hard to hear. It says that when Eliezer brings Rivka back to the Beis Avram, so it says that she falls off the camel, right? But Teres Yitzchak, she sees him and she falls off the camel. What's she falling off the camel for? Remain calm, stay in your seat. V'tomer le'evet, pasuk samach hey. V'tomer le'evet, she says to the Eliezer. By the way, Eliezer's name's not mentioned once in the whole parsha, right? It's all Evet Avram, the whole thing. Miha ish halazeh. Who is this individual? Ha'hoylech b'sadalik representative that's walking in the field towards us. Tema, we read the lashon that he says. Matam shala mizeh ha'ish Yosef Misharon Hashem. We think this was the first person that they saw from Aram Naraim until they got to Eretz Yisrael. The ein loy mashayta she'elos kenal kol adam. Don't think that she asks this about every person. Just thinking, Lamai says she's 3 years old. You know, like when you're in the car, when you drive with a 3-year-old, who's that? Who's that? What's this tati? What's that tree? Right? And she wasn't like that. She wasn't. The Torah calls her a Nara, but she wasn't Narish. Yeah. V'yesh loymar. This is Moshe Tzkanim talking. She yesh ben medrash. Yeah, a state and a medrash. She rasa. She saw shahayahoylech roishay lamata v'raglav lamayla. She saw him walking upside down. His head was on the bottom and his feet were on top. Because this is the way that people who come from Gan Eden walk. You think this is the only case it happened? No. Right? The end of Sefer Shmuel, the end of Shmuel Aleph.
You walk on your hands?
It doesn't say. I don't know. I never saw this. I don't know. I don't know anyone from Gan Eden. And
if we see someone like that, we have big issues.
If you see that, call Hatzalah. The point is that at the end of Sefer Shmuel, so Shaul HaMelech was very nervous to go to a certain Milchama. So the Urim V'Tumim wasn't giving him answers because of the mice with Never Kehanim, and it was a whole mess. So he decided that he's going to ask Oiv. He's going to go to Balas Oiv. What's a Balas Oiv? The Torah tells us we're not allowed to do that. But a Balas Oiv is a person who communicates with dead people, and you could ask them questions and they respond. They still do it today.
You do?
It's Asr Midaraisa to do it. There are people that know how to do it today, it still exists. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you where to find it, but it exists. Jewish people know how to do it, but they shouldn't. It's Aveir. It's a Deraisa. Anyway, so she calls up Shmuel from his place in Gan Eden, and there's a whole ma'aseh there about what Shmuel said, and she got very nervous. Why? Because she saw somebody else accompanying him. Who was that? That was Moshe Rabbeinu. Because Shmuel was nervous that they were calling him for the big din Torah, for the din Hagadol V'Anoira, so he schleps along Moshe Rabbeinu. And there's a lot of Torah on this also that we say over a lot. But it says over here, Ra'isi Elohim Olam Min Haaretz. I saw 2 of them coming out of the ground. V'hachanami mi Gan Eden. Kada Omar La'el she'asa le'refuah sham. And he was also coming from a Gan Eden, like we said earlier, that he had refuah in Gan Eden. Like we mentioned, Pirkei Blazer says that he had refuah in Gan Eden. So what's Yitzchak? After that case, was in Gan Eden for 2 years, 3 years, till he came back. So what's this ma'aseh that he was upside down? What's this business Yitzchak going upside down? I mean, it's freaky, it's spooky, but like, well, there's got to be a pshat to this. So thinking Pashut, I think it's a double Pashut. I didn't see anybody saying this. I'm saying this on my own, but there's a Gemara in Psachim above Basra that says that one of the sons of one of the Amiram was very sick, and he lost consciousness for a while, and they brought him back. He was ready in Shemaiah. They brought him back. They got him, and they asked him, "Was hast du gesehen over there? What did you see up there?" He said, "I saw Elyenim lamata v'tachtenim lamala. Olam hafach reisi." I saw the entire thing was upside down. The people that are machshav in this world, they're not machshav in that world. The people that they're and fakert. Upstairs, the machshav the people that they're not machshav in this world, right? So Yitzchak Avinu, what was his avodah, right? He went into Gan Eden. He had a real tchiyas hamesim. But it seems that when you have tchiyas hamesim, this is how it goes. But I think that the pshat, it doesn't mean that he was physically walking on his hands, right? I think it means that when we're living in this world,
we're living upside down.
We don't know which way is up. And the Yitzhahara is telling us all kinds of things. It's an Alma de Shikra. There's so many things we could get caught up in, right? And I'll tell you a beautiful vart in the Chedush Harim that tells to this, yeah? It says, Vayetze Yitzchak, the next pasuk, the pasuk before, the next couple of psukim, Vayetze Yitzchak l'suach basada. Yitzchak went out into the field. L'suach means to take it easy or whatever. That's a pashtus. But Chazal, we know, the Yitzchak went to be Masak and Tfilas Mincha. Tfilas Mincha is Yitzchak's Tfilah, because it's the middle of the day, that's his man of the Gevuras, okay. Frekt Heises, so Dr. Nomar in Brachas, Chatzef alai man the matzli bebiksa. That it's a chutzpah for a person to daven in an open area. So, because davening, you have to have a certain kaviresh, it's a certain seriousness, and it's an open area. Like there's no, you fly away. You're not tied down to anything. And a person davens, he has to be tied down. He has to be fully rooted and concentrating on what he's doing. What do you mean by Yitzchak l'suach basada? How could Yitzchak daven in a field if it's chatzav lem on the matzah b'viksa? So Zok Taisus, he was in the Makom HaMikdash. That Sunday, he was by Har Moriah. So therefore what? Huh? But the pshat is like this, Zok Taisus like this. What is the midah of Yira? The midah of Ava, we spoke last week, is just giving and giving and giving, unlimited giving. Right? I said today, what's the difference between Chesed and Rachamim? Rachamim pshat is, you need a shirt, I give you a shirt. Chesed means you need a shirt, I give you 2 shirts and a sweater. Chesed means just nedivos, extra giving. Yeah? So Zok T'chdushim azeh. Zok T'chdushim, that the pshat is that, what? Yeah, we're just about done. Zok T'chdushim, the pshat is like this. When it comes to Yitzchak Avinu, Yira, when you're afraid of something, you feel small, and you feel constricted, and you feel smaller. And you feel very locked in. You don't have the freedom that you would normally want to feel when you're feeling better. And in Chesed, everything's great. Yira, it's much more scary, you know. So even when Yitzchak was davening in an open area, and because he was the midah of Yira, he was always felt that he had the mechitzas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu surrounding him. So if he's surrounded by the mechitzas that he created of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is always in his life like that, he has no makom. He was in Gan Eden for 2 years with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He has no makom to think about this world as an Alma D'Shikra. He's completely disconnected. He's an Oila Tamima. He's completely disconnected from this world.
So it's a good thing.
He doesn't have any shaykhs to this world at all. The Torah doesn't talk about him. Nothing. It came out nothing in Torah about him. Why? Because he can't exist in this world. When you see the truth of the truth in the Eilam Emes, where he was, this entire world is one big bilbul. It's one big babble. It's all tamish. Nothing makes any. So that's what it means. He was upside down. From our terms, we can't even relate to that. That's the nakuda. I think that's the pshat. So getting back to our original Tchias HaMesim part. So that's the pshat. Why that ukamat shaloi nishchat parcha nishmasa. Because once there's a creation called Tchias HaMesim, which is the insurance on Misa, that it's not a permanent thing, it's a temporary thing, now Sarah could die. So it's Kamat Shalei Nishchata. It was like just about. Yitzchak created Tchias HaMesim, now Sarah could die. It's not Sarah died, Yitzchak has Tchias HaMesim, it's the other way around. Yitzchak creates Tchias HaMesim, Memela, now Sarah could die. Because now we have the insurance and the haftacha, so to speak, that is going to be Tchias HaMesim. It's good, no? It's time to have Marv, no? We should be zeichet a kitzu v'ranu ne'shechne ofa